Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to the Automate Boldly Kickoff event. I'm super excited you guys are here watching this with us. My name is Jake Hall, and AKA I'm known as the Manufacturing Millennial, who loves to talk about manufacturing automation. And with us today, we have some awesome guests from Epson Robots. We have Juan Carlos, Rick Brookshire, and Scott Marsic. You know, to kick things off with, it's summertime here. It's like 85 degrees, the warmest day it's been all year here in Michigan. So, you know, Juan, let's go ahead, give yourself an introduction. And what is your favorite outdoor activity to do in the summertime? So let's start with you.
Hello, Jake, and hello, everyone. So yes, my name is Juan Carlos Castillo. I'm the Sales and Service Director with Epson Robots. And I love to run. I am a runner. So that's one of my favorite activities. Although I have to say that now I am also picking on grilling. So I like to grill some steaks. It's becoming an amazing pastime. So yes, awesome. That's what I do.
Coming to your house, Juan.
I know, right? Why are we having this?
Why are we doing this virtually? Let's go to Juan Carlos' house.
All right, Rick, over to you.
Hi, I'm Rick Brookshire. I'm the Director of Product Management and Product Development. Been with Epson about 35 years now. So I, like Jake, love all things automation. Have been doing this for a long, long time and really enjoy it. Hey, my favorite summer activity and what I do is with my daughter, we go down to the beach. We live about 5 minutes away, go surfing, boogie boarding, play volleyball, and all things that fathers and daughters do at the beach. We spend a lot of time there during the summer.
Man, it sounds like Juan Carlos needs to bring the steaks to the beach, and we're getting somewhere. All right, Scott, what do you got to offer?
Yes, man, I gotta up the ante with the steaks. So yeah, my name's Scott Marcik. I'm the Group Product Manager for Epson Robots. Been with Epson for 5 years. Great company. Love working here. My favorite summertime activity is camping. I actually, my past life, I was a geologist. So that's how I started my career, was geology. A lot of camping in California. We got a lot of great spots to go to. But I do have one more thing I love to do, and I'm going to up the ante on Juan Carlos here. I lived in Texas for several years, and I got into smoking. Ooh. And we're talking about smoking meats here. So all my neighbors did it. The smell was amazing on a Saturday morning. So got myself an electric smoker and a big brisket from Costco. One of my favorite things to do in the summer. Get all the neighbors together and have brisket.
It's funny you mentioned that, Scott. I actually smoked 4 full pork butts yesterday. It was the pastor that I'm at is retiring after 30 years, and I smoked 30 pounds. Well, yeah, I basically smoked meat for 40 people yesterday. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, let's move into it. So let's talk about, we're here for the Automate Boldly Pregame event. The main event is happening next week. If you guys have not heard about it, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this up right now. So you can go over to automateboldly.com/vfairs. And what really this is we're talking about really the main event that's going to happen next week on May 25th. And that's why we're here today, to get more people interested and excited about this event. We're hoping that you guys are going to join us, as well as many of you guys are going to be speakers at that event. So let's back it up real quick. Let's talk about Epson. And, this question is going to be, we're going to kick it off. Really, how did Epson get started in automation? What's the story? And Rick, I'm gonna toss that one over to you. Let's talk about Epson and the story of how it got going.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks, Jake. So everybody knows Epson is a printer company. Whenever we sit down on a plane or something like that, I work for Epson, and the printer company. And you always go, yes, but we do a lot more than that. What a lot of people don't realize is that we got our start in watches. We actually make the watches that get sold by Seiko Time as a part of the Seiko group of companies. So we had to manufacture these watches, and we had lots of people making these watches with little tiny parts. And the parts kept getting smaller, and it kept getting harder to be able to do that by hand with humans. So we had to figure out how to do that in an automated fashion. So the company started looking for robots or some type of mechanism to be able to assemble these watches. And we couldn't find what we needed. And this is back in the 70s. Couldn't find what we needed. And so eventually we decided, you know what, we're just going to have to make our own, which Epson does a lot of. We can't find that? All right, we'll make our own. So we made our own robots back then. We were using them for internal use for these little tiny watches. So very tiny parts, things that are so small you can barely see them sometimes. And we started thinking about it, and that, you know what, there's probably a lot of other companies out there that could also utilize this technology. So we expanded out and decided to open up this technology to the rest of the world. And that was over 40 years ago of how we got started there. And so, I joined the team, like I said, about 35 years ago. So the robots have changed across
They've evolved a little bit since then.
Yeah, they've changed quite a bit in the industry, and it's really fun watching all of those changes. But that's how we got started. We got started in making the watches and needing the robots for our own internal use. And we have now a 400-person systems integration internal group that continues to do automation in-house for all kinds of products. So it's really a lot of fun.
That's crazy. And for those of you who are joining us today, feel free, if you guys have questions or comments, throw them in the chat. We're going to be watching those. So if you have questions for Juan or Wick, Scott, or myself, we'd love to talk about those during this event. But, my next question, I'm going to bring over to you, Scott. When I think of Epson, I'm thinking of my printer that's over in the other room. How does really robots fit within the broad company story of, Rick talked about how robots came about, how you guys are evolving and you find a need for something and you make it. How is robots fitting kind of in the broader story?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of twofold. It's technological and it's manufacturing. We, as Rick mentioned, got started with watches, making those, getting that subhuman precision to make the watches, doing that in-house. Wow, this is great. All of a sudden, we're in the robot business. But we build things internally. We're a vertically integrated company, and we use robotics and automation for our own systems. And so that's how you get into printers. So we began looking at dot matrix printers and how do you scale up and fully automate think tasks that were previously manual. So we manufactured dot matrix printers with our 6-axis Scaras. We got into precision core print heads. So this is where actually I got my start with Epson on the business inkjet side. And we always used to love to tell the story that, we build everything in-house. We've got this amazing print head that puts down 40 million dots of ink per second. We manufacture those with a fully automated line of clean room robots. It's an incredible process. There's awesome videos online showing what that looks like.
So Scott, I'm going to do a quick plug then. So, I highlight a lot of manufacturing videos. I want to see that video. That'd be a really fun video to highlight and share with all those cleaner robots making that equipment.
There's some killer videos, Jake, just showing all this stuff happening. We're one of our, if not the largest, Rick can probably tell me, if we're the largest user of Epson robots, they're all over the place. So precision core heads, ink cartridges, packaging, palletizing, the vision systems for inspection, quality control, all throughout the line. And the small footprint's been a big value add for us because, as you go to a factory floor, space is expensive. So you want to make sure you minimize and you've got your biggest bang for the buck per square foot. And so our small footprint robots allow us to get those production yields that we need, the quality that we need, and allow us to scale up as demand increases. So think of the precision core chips. If demand ramps up like it did during COVID, a lot of people at home buying printers, we're able to scale up our production very quickly with our semi and fully automated lines of robots.
So let's jump off of that, Scott, and let's bring that over to you, Juan Carlos. We're talking about robotics, and we're talking about the post-pandemic, as you just said, Scott. What does robotics look like to the industry happening post-pandemic? I know manufacturing is at a huge demand, right? More consumer products are being purchased now than ever before. Why? Because not a lot of people traveled the past year. So what do they do with that money? They bought products. They bought product. In order for that product to be produced, it needs to be manufactured, which is being driven by automation. So, Juan Carlos, I would love for you to step in on that. What is the robotics industry looking like, post-pandemic?
Yes, absolutely, Jake. So the pandemic changed a lot of things. As you mentioned, right now, robotics are in very high demand. And that is because I believe that people are starting to look into the robots from a very different angle that they were not considering before. So traditional industries, of course, have used robots for years and years and years. But what happened throughout the pandemic, the robot came on a different light. People notice that when you have automation, You can distance people a little more, so you can keep your production running. It also gives you, of course, more control of the quality of your scrap. All of those things are allowing people and manufacturers to look at the robotics industry through a very different lens. But what happened is that also with the technology advancing and moving forward, robots are now being applied in industries that were not even considered before. And I believe the pandemic just accelerated this trend. We had one of our customers who manufactures balloons, but I'm not talking about the huge balloon. No, no, I'm talking the party balloons. You know, the little ones, the silver
Yeah,
ones that you
yeah.
buy in the supermarkets. I mean, it blew my mind when this company was looking for robotics to automate their process. So
So
that tells you, yeah.
let's. I want to expand on that. So real quick, this is a question that came in from Darren Stinson, and this is kind of going exactly what you were talking about, Juan. So since COVID hit the world, what changes have you witnessed in demand for robots? I think you're kind of addressing that right now, but I want you to focus on this. Has it changed Epson's strategy? So I mean, what are you guys seeing differently? Within the demand for robotics that's hitting manufacturing right now. Do you see a big, demand for it? Are you seeing new applications in which robots are being used that weren't looked at before?
We are. And yes, that's exactly the point I was trying to make, that we have new users that want to get trained, that want to get into this industry, that want to learn how to apply the benefit of robotics to their world. So has Epson changed the strategy? I would say yes and no, in that all along we have tried to make robotics accessible to a broader audience by having very flexible, very friendly type of industrial robots that can help people. So in a way, we are lucky, if you can call it that way, or others might say we had a strategy all along, of course, and we are truly trying to help people go through this moment. So yeah, very interesting times.
I like that, and Juan, that was a great point. We were talking about simplicity and how things are changing. So, Rick, I'm going to go to you on this question, not because of the age and how long you've been at Epson for, because that just only shows wisdom, right? So we're not doing the age that you were saying, the wisdom you've seen, where right robots have been really in North America, South America, Epson's been pushing for 32, 33 years, and you've been with company, and before that when Epson acquired them for 35 years. So you've seen robots evolve from the beginning to where they are now. So let's talk about simplicity. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because when we're looking at the labor force right now in manufacturing, the age demographic is growing in terms of it's getting higher in age. So that means the people who have been experienced in the industry and grew up with the implementation and introduction of robots are aging out. They're retiring. They're not, they're moving on in their life and in their career, which is forcing the younger generations, the Gen Zs, the millennials, to come into this world that's already been developed for a long time. Let's talk about simplicity. What is Epson doing really to make the simplicity of people who haven't been in the industry, they're walking into manufacturing for the first time? How is Epson addressing that?
Right. And the robots and the ease of use in terms of being able to implement a robot system has changed so much. So I can use, I guess, some of my 35 years and think back the way that we used to do things back when and so on. I know that back then, programming vision systems, you had to go get a C developer, a software engineer to be able to make that thing work. And then to get everything connected, network engineers and that type of thing, because it was difficult to do all of those kinds of things. And back then we didn't even have the Ethernet connection that we have now inside of factories and so on. But the biggest problem probably was the amount of time it took to be able to solve an automation problem. I want to automate making something, something. And it now takes a system integrator back then a year or longer to be able to put the whole thing together and so on. Now we've got system integrators out there putting together total systems in a matter of just a few months.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. We've got end users who are taking simple solutions or simple applications and they're building them out in a matter of weeks. Our vision guide system, we've got people that are programming that in a matter of days for their particular application. I think back of the first vision systems that we worked with, and I go, there's no way we could do anything in a matter of days. And so now with the advent also with the collaborative robots and with all of the simplicity related to that and so on. And then also with our entry level T-Series robots and Epson RC Plus and how easy that is to use, it just makes it so much faster for users to be able to go and develop things. I think about an analogy, and it's funny when you were asking this, I'm thinking about, wow, when I was a kid, you go to a phone to make a phone call and you had to use the rotary dial. Well, then we went to the push button. That was huge advancement and so on. Well, now everybody's walking around with cell phones, and our kids, they don't even hardly understand about a home phone. It's just all these cell phones. Well, think about robotics and where we got to in the last 10 to 20 years. And now think about it for the next 10 to 20 years. So when I think about, your millennial group and so on, and what they are thinking about and how can they help and so on. Well, today we've changed from programming, writing giant programs and so on to using wizards, point and click interfaces, that type of thing. That's the change we've gotten to today. And it's taken what used to be all this code down to a few clicks and so on. That's great. But I'm looking forward to seeing the next generation that comes in to take this bit of code and turn it into voice activated, being able to teach the robots to do things from explain it to them, just like you do your kids. Yep. And that's the challenge and the fun for the engineers that are coming in now, because that's going to get there. Yep. And it's super exciting about all the things that are technologies that are going to be.
And here's the thing, it's not even just engineers anymore. It's people who are coming out of a skilled trade school. It's people who are graduating with an associate's degree in mechatronics. Or it's someone who's been working there for 10 years, and because of the labor demand, the company's investing in them and saying, hey, pick this up as our first robot and run with it and learn with it. It's no longer that engineer who's running that robot. It's right. Someone with basic experience in manufacturing. And that's what it's driving. So let's step away real quick. We're here for the Automate Boldly Kickoff event. So this is happening next week, May 25th. You can go ahead and register at automateboldly.vfairs.com. I put it right here that you can type that out. And really what we're going to be talking about is more of these discussions that is happening in the robotics industry, how automation is evolving with robotics, where even robot suppliers, and you mentioned this a little bit briefly, robot suppliers are not just providing robots anymore. They're providing ecosystems and solutions. If it's from automated feeders, if it's from vision systems, it's from interfaces, if it's from the idea of collaborating with other manufacturing companies to make solutions easier. A lot of these great discussions are going to be happening next week, May 25th. So you can go ahead and go to automateboldly.vfairs.com and register for that event. So this next question, Juan, I want to bring it over to you. When we're talking about industries, I was looking for a couple of videos before kicking this off, and we're talking about different industries that are adapting robotics, that are adapting automation. One of those videos that I showed was, end-of-line packaging, product coming out of a conveyor system, being palletized, putting a label on it, and being boxed. Then there's another video of scare systems that were stacking really, fancy sugar cookies in boxes. And so it's, when people think of automation, it's not just this heavy industrial manufacturing, it's all these different industries. Can you speak a little bit more on the types of industries that are adapting robotics more than that they haven't 5, 10, or even, 2 years ago before the pandemic?
Yes, absolutely, Jake. So we see two different trends. I mean, one in which traditional industries that have used robotics for a long time are using more of it. So you can think of the electronics industry. They have been using robots forever, but now they are using it even more in places where they weren't just a few years ago. So that is kind of a vertical expansion, I guess, within the automotive, the electronics type of industries. But then if you look across in the horizontal spectrum, then you have other industries that are starting to come on board very strongly for automation, such as, for example, the textile industry. And I know that's kind of strange to think about, but they are doing a ton of stuff. The consumer products industry, and by that I mean the shampoos, perfumes, all of that kind of things that are starting to look into automation. And then, of course, you have food and beverage that is more sensitive. So we see, again, a lot of industries that were not thinking really about, man, should I automate or not? Now that's not the question. The question is, how can I automate? It is no longer an issue if they have to. It's just, how can I? Because they are facing a lot of challenges
I'm going to add something on top of that on the medical side, because, with COVID coming and at least what happened with us, COVID came in, we spent a lot of time in years past trying to help the medical industry understand that, automation and how we could help and so on. But a lot of the medical folks and a lot of the people here just in the US started realizing, well, wait a minute, we don't want to rely on other countries for our medical supplies. We want to be able to build those supplies here. And so a lot of the medical companies were coming to us and saying, hey, we need help with building masks. We need help with building test kits and all these other things and so on. And more than just COVID, a lot more medical stuff coming in now, because we want to kind of keep it here, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you kind of even expand, a little further, and you get into supply chains, and supply chains have just been greatly impacted, So we're here in Southern California, and we'll drive down into LA, and look over the Long Beach Harbor, one of the largest harbors, in the world. You got Houston, Galveston, you got, Long Beach and a few other spots, but you look out there, and any time you'll see between 15 and 25 cargo ships just parked. Just sitting there because there aren't enough berths to bring products in. We're getting your summertime, and I every year, Jake, I throw the dice and I gamble. Do I need to get a new air conditioner for my house? And every year I'm like, nope, I'm gonna hold off spending the money. And this year I decided to do it, and the guys are like, dude, you better get this really soon, because we're gonna be impacted really quick. The supply of getting these, and it could be like a little part that they can't get from someplace, and it slows up the entire manufacturing process. Companies are looking at that as a risk. If they can't get their product out to market because of one little part, then they're asking themselves, I need to get that someplace local, And then to Rick's point on medical, if you don't have supply chain of pharmaceuticals, then it becomes a country risk, so there's the risks just got exacerbated by COVID. They were always there, but now it's like people are really taking a close look at that and looking at how do we bring automation back to our shore.
And that's great. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about supply chain. Let's talk about reshoring and resourcing. And a great statistic to bring up with that is, for those of you who are watching, I'm super passionate about manufacturing and helping manufacturers automate to really protect themselves in the future, and also to attract millennials and the next generation. Small to medium-sized manufacturers, it's somewhere between 92 to 93% of the companies in manufacturing are small to medium-sized manufacturers. That's the scale of it when it comes to, I think it's 50 or 70 employees in small represent a small to medium-sized manufacturer. It's a significant portion of the business and also the economy in the U.S. How can these companies automate? I think a lot of times it's intimidating, where we have big corporations who have a lot of departments, a lot of resources. They can invest R&D to, build out automated solutions. There's more capital involved. But for the small to medium-sized manufacturer, they view it as more risk because there's unknowns. They don't have someone who's a full-time controls engineer who's been around as long as Rick, who knows about robots. It's, there's less expertise. So what is Epson or how is automation addressable to these small to medium-sized manufacturers? Rick, let's go to you on that.
Yeah, and I think we talked about a little bit of this when we were talking about the simplicity. So, if you've got 15, 30, 50 employees at your company, and it's really difficult to put together an automation system, and you're going to have to pay millions and millions of dollars to get something put together, that's a ginormous investment for those businesses. And they typically look at it and go, it's going to be too expensive. I can't do it. So one of the big problems is just helping them understand, no, it's not going to be that expensive. It's going to be far less expensive, because now, going back to our earlier discussion, it's much easier to implement. So we've been able to cut down those costs tremendously. But one of the problems is that people don't know that. And that's part of why we're here today, just talking about this, is helping people understand. The big companies, they understand that they've got to cut costs. They've got to find a way to get the cost of, every one of their components down and so on. And the little companies know that too, but they just don't know how to do it. So we want to help them get there with easier and lower cost automation solutions that they can implement. And to your point, Jake, earlier, is how about having technicians build out the system or build out the automation? How about even having some high school students that just graduated from high school and they come in and you teach them at the trade schools, and then they can come in and start implementing some of your automation for simple applications. So I think the small and medium companies, and Juan Carlos just talked about one, making balloons. Who knew? Who knew? But that's a great example of a small or medium-sized company that can implement automation. They just have to ask for help. The robot companies, the system integrators, everybody will help and help them get there. Juan Carlos,
that's exactly what I wanted to say, Rick, that companies should not try to do this alone. It is a complex world. Automating successfully can have a lot of little tiny sides to that project that you need to be mindful of, and having experience to do it is critical. So one advice for these small, medium companies to be able to successfully automate, don't try to do it by yourself. I mean, there is a whole ecosystem of system integrators, people that do this day in and day out and have so much experience on doing it. And then, of course, you have the manufacturers such as Epson. You can come to us, we can put together a plan. So one advice is, please don't do it by yourself. There is a whole ecosystem ready to help.
And we would love to talk to those customers, even if it ends up being that we don't get any robot sales from Epson and so on, but just helping them understand what's possible and what's not possible so they don't waste and spend a whole bunch of money going down the wrong path. That's that passion, that Jake, you have, and Scott now has, as he's been in the industry and so on. And when you go to the trade shows and you talk to different folks that are in this industry is full of a lot of people that are passionate about automation. We want to help you if you're new to automation. And even if that means, and we do it sometimes, recommending a competitor's product or recommending some other solution that doesn't include robotics, we want to help you automate. That's the real goal here.
And I think this leads greatly into this really transfers one to the next question. We're talking about how companies can address automation, how they can take that next step. And I think there's a couple of things, right? A lot of companies are wanting to take that next step right now because they're facing such a large labor gap in the industry. It's hard to find people to come to work. And I think one of the big things is it's hard to attract the new generations to come to work, the Gen Zs, the millennials. And I'll go on and on about this, but I think one of the biggest things that millennials are not attracted to manufacturing because they think it's a dark, dirty, dangerous environment, but they think it's old. They don't think there's ingenuity. They don't think there's ease of adaptation when it comes to high-tech solutions like additive manufacturing or robotics or big data or IoT. Scott, I want to point this to you. What do you think? Why is there such a large labor gap in the manufacturing space? And as I mentioned, what do you want to add on to what that can be, how that can be addressed?
Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely relevant question. Like a lot of things, we've been talking about here, it's been exacerbated by COVID. These are trends that have been going for some time. I mean, looking at the latest data, what is it, like 500,000 job openings in manufacturing, and I think there was a forecast that came out recently. It depends on what you read. It's like 2.4 million by 2030 or, some crazy number. I mean, it's huge.
2.4 unfulfilled manufacturing jobs by, I think it's actually 2028.
Yeah, so it's huge, and we're the second largest manufacturer in the world behind China. So it's like we're a manufacturing engine here in the United States, but you've got a huge gap in jobs. And then you look at your labor force. You look at how many people are in the U.S. and like half are under the age of 40. So it's like that millennial and Gen X or Gen Z group really are critical to helping to bridge the gap and getting them into manufacturing so that we can have a sustainable manufacturing ecosystem here in the United States. But people have a variety of reasons for not getting into it. I mean, you mentioned a few, dark, stinky factories, kind of misconceptions about what it is, COVID brought up certainly a lot of fears right now. I mean, people are afraid of, going back to, say a manufacturing plant, or maybe they're afraid of the job getting shipped overseas, if they do get into it. And then you do have the element of, how do I get started? How do I get into that? It just seems like such a big field. I don't know where to begin. And you see that with both say, the entrance into manufacturing. So the millennial group, if you will, they don't know where to start. And then you see it with companies as well. They don't know where to begin. They're risk adverse. They don't want to invest the capital. They tried it a few years ago, didn't work. Not really sure if they want to do it again. And so now people are having to reconcile all of this and see what's the way forward. How do I get into that? And I think you touched on some important points. Technology, making sure that people understand what is automation, that it's easier than you think to do it, that factories are not factories from 20 years ago. You can look at any of the videos that we've got online, like of, say, Epson factories manufacturing printheads. They're high-tech manufacturing centers. I mean, they are incredible, how these environments operate. But also education. That's huge in working with trade schools, working with universities, even younger, to get people experienced in automation and begin working with robotics, begin working with programming, and realizing that, I can do this, and there's a way forward, and there's a great career, and I'm doing good for society. There's a lot of good that comes in manufacturing. And I've got a really good career looking out 10, 20 years. And that's the stuff that I'm really glad that you do what you do to really bring this to the forefront of millennials, because it's a real important topic. It's important for certainly millennials, but it's also important for our industry, our country. So it's good stuff.
So
I want to
Go
throw
ahead.
in one little comment, Jake, on this and so on. And this from my computer science background and so on, coming out of school, computer science, marketing degrees, and thinking that I'm going to be writing software, for IT and that type of thing. And I think about that. And then I think about the software that we write and the things we do for automation. I go, oh my gosh, this is so much more exciting. You get to write software for something that you then get to see it do something. You see it move. You're not just looking at stuff on a screen. So anybody out there who's thinking about, quote, computer programming, as their career choice, use that in the automation industry, because you're going to have so much more fun. You get to connect to everything and see it work, and see it do something, see it move, see it light up, see it go over there and pick that thing up. That's so much more fun than watching a database on a screen, pulling some data out and so on. So, I mean, anybody who's thinking about learning programming, this is a place where you can come apply it, and there's lots of jobs for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, huge demand for it. So let's go ahead and we're on a live event right now. So there's some great questions coming in from the audience. So I want to highlight this one from Justin. And really, any of you guys can go ahead and take it. So as the demand for innovation increases, what are some of the biggest issues automation or robotics manufacturers face in improving the longevity and performance of their systems?
I can start with the discussion here. Nick, and I believe that there are the manufacturers and the owners of this system are under tremendous pressure. They need to deliver a system that is accurate, that is efficient, that performs the task in a very small space and at a very low cost. And when you put all of this into the same bucket, all of these things sometimes make people cut corners. And when people start cutting corners is when the longevity of the systems and the robots do not perform as they should. So I believe one of the biggest issues here is that someone needs to say, no, I am not going to cut corners. I'm going to do this right, because maybe the upfront cost is going to be a little higher. Maybe the time I need to invest to really design the system, to take a step back, stop and truly look into the design before I jump into the implementation. Yes, it may take a little more time, but in the long run, the result, the return on investment is going to be so much higher. So going back to the question, I believe it is all the tremendous pressure that is being put today into the system builders and the manufacturers to meet the time demands, the complexity of the products they are trying to assemble. So I would name that as one of the main ones. I don't know, Rick, Scott, if you have anything else there.
Well, certainly the products that are expected from the consumers have to be better today than they were 10 or 20 years ago. They're expecting the performance to be better. They're expecting the quality of the products to be better. They want them to last longer. Well, the only way that's going to happen is if they're better made, if they're made better than they were 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and so on. And so that means better systems, better solutions. It also means keeping those lines running and being able to predict and do some predictive things in looking and seeing, oh, you know what? This motor is possibly going to fail on this particular robot or this particular system, or you know what, these gears are maybe, we're seeing something funny, some information that's coming back telling us about gear wear or something along those lines. So being able to do some predictive or preventative things in looking ahead with health monitoring and so on, versus waiting until a line goes down and that type of thing. The other thing I'll mention is one of the things we're seeing that some of the really good manufacturers out there doing is, used to be you'd build the product and you'd inspect it at the end. Now we see them going all the way down to the level of placing a component and then inspecting the placement of that component, and then going to the next placement. That is incredibly cool to me, because the end result of that is that, of course, by the time you get to the final inspection, of course it all works because you've inspected it every step of the way. Those companies are investing time and money to make sure that they're getting incredible yields, but it's paying off in the consumers coming back to them over and over again to buy their products because of the high quality.
So look, Rick, I want to take what you just said about companies investing, and this is the next question I want to bring up. This is from Mike Jeffrey. Mike, if you're there, great to hear from you, man. Hope you're doing well. But he mentioned there's an article that manufacturing companies are ready to invest because of the crash that happened in 2008. Have you heard that there's those same concerns now about a future one where companies are worried about investing?
I haven't come across the concern in the same frame as the financial crisis that occurred back in 2008, 2009. I think it's flipped. It's I need to invest. I need to automate. I need to change how my manufacturing is conducted. I need to do this, or else I will have that negative impact. My company will not be competitive. I will not be able to have a sustainable manufacturing process or system. I will not be able to address the demands of my customers. I will not be able to have flexible manufacturing so that I can address customized products, changes that happen from year to year. Like, what we're seeing, your cell phone, gosh, the thing changes every couple of years, So it's, you need to be flexible and adaptable. And that's where investing in automation can help you and can help give you a sustainable footing as you move forward. So I kind of see it flipped versus that led by fear. It's really led by opportunity and fear of not doing something.
But there's always somebody that's saying the opposite. I would love to see the article because I'm just curious, because I'm with you, Scott. I think it's going down the path of you have to go invest in automation and so on in order to continue to compete. Hey, Mike, I would love to see that article though, because I'm just curious of the contra side.
Real quick, Jake. We are inviting an economist to talk precisely about this topic to Automate Boldly. And I believe he's going to address exactly this question during his keynote speech. So, this person is from ITR Economics. So I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation what he has to say about precisely that question.
Absolutely. So Dr. Alan, I always forget to pronounce his last name. Bayulio, but Scott, do you remember how to pronounce his last name?
Dude, come on, man.
Anyways,
I'd say Bolio.
Anyways, it's Alan from ITR. If you guys have been in the industry for a long time.
Dr. Alan.
It's Alan from ITR and his brother. It's a phenomenal 1 hour presentation. If there's one thing, for me personally, if you want to walk away from May 25th and checking out an event, listen to Dr. Allen talk about the economy and manufacturing. Yeah. I love listening to this guy. When I was involved with AHTD, they spoke every fall. I heard about it, and I've already heard him speak 3 times this year already at different events. And every day I walk away with something.
Yeah, the dude's super engaging. Gives tremendous industry insight. It's relevant. It's up to date. It covers all the Americas. The Automate Boldly event is for everyone, from Canada down to the tip of Argentina. So he's addressing market trends and needs and what's happening across the Americas. And so just a really insightful guy, and leaves you with a lot of inspiration for what things look like in the next few years, and what you can do about it to be proactive.
So I think that's a great transition, because we're getting close to the past half the hour mark. Let's talk about Automate It Boldly. And Automate Boldly, it's a virtual event that's happening this year, next week, May 25th. Scott, what is the driver for creating Automate Boldly? What was the reason for saying, hey, we're doing a virtual event this year. We're bringing in, subject matter experts to talk about robotics, to talk about vision integration, to talk about, Juan, you're speaking at the event. I forgot what your title, your presentation is, but you're talking about something. I think, Rick, you are as well, correct?
Yes.
So Scott, why Automate Boldly?
Yeah, it gives us an opportunity to engage with our customers. And it's just been we're always engaging with our customers. Usually we're at physical forums. Fortunately, these are starting to come back. But it gives us an opportunity to engage with our customer base, our prospects, folks, whether new to automation or experienced in automation. It's just a diverse set of needs that are out there. It's Rick touched on it a bit earlier. It used to be, it was a big company, and they had their automation people, and they were looking at, how do I automate a process? How do I get products out quicker? And now the demands have just grown significantly. The end users on the new side have very, very different needs than the experienced guys. And the different verticals have different needs. And they're all coming at this differently. And this is a place for us to engage with customers wherever they're at in their automation journey. And they're asking different questions. The new guy's asking, how do I get started? Some of the stuff we talked about earlier. I've tried this before. I don't know where to begin. And the experienced guys, like, what should I focus on? What's the latest technology here? How do I improve this? And so we have an environment where people will learn industry insights from folks like Dr. Allen, from our leadership. And then we'll also have a whole virtual expo area where folks can learn about our products, our solutions, but also, and I think this is what's really cool, engage with our automation engineers, engage with our application team. These folks have been doing this stuff for decades, and they have so much experience. And so we really encourage people to come with their questions, no matter where they're at, what they're doing, what they're thinking about doing, and get guidance from us. And so we really want this to be an interactive environment, a place where people can come from wherever they're at in their journey, and leave to be one step closer to their ultimate goal in their manufacturing process. So we're excited about this. This is an engagement event that we've been putting a lot of effort and time into. And we encourage anyone on this video to sign up and join us.
Absolutely. Now, Rick, I'll have you add on to that. Scott made some great points, but what else are you looking to achieve from the event? And then, Juan, I'm going to have you wrap up after Rick with, what can the attendees take away with? So, Rick, we'll go ahead and write with you. What are some things we're looking to achieve with it?
I'm never a person of only one word, but educate. Education. So this is all about education. This is all about reaching out and trying to get those folks out there that don't know anything about automation to have the opportunity to talk and speak with experts, as Scott spoke about. Look, we'll help them. We'll talk about their application, or we'll just talk automation in general. We'll talk about trends if that's what they want to talk about. But we want to help them understand automation better and what it can and sometimes cannot do. Because sometimes there's that myth of, it can solve everything. We can do everything. We can automate anything and so on. But we want to educate. And one of the things I'm super excited about in this event is that, we've been for years, and I've been doing it for a long time. I've probably been to literally hundreds of automation trade shows. I dare say, I don't think it's 1,000, but hundreds of trade shows in my career. And, you get to see a lot of different things there and so on. But this is the first time with Epson, at least, where we're getting to show so much more and talk about so much more than we ever could take to a single trade show to help and share demos and so on. We have a ton of new demos that we haven't shown anyone yet on some of our great equipment that we're excited about, some new things. We've got demos on showing how easy it is. So we talked about that earlier, how easy it is to program a robot. We've got demos on that, on vision. integrated vision and how easy that is to work with as well. So being able to show all of these different things in one place, and you can come in, pick and choose what you like. And like Jake said, and I will parrot this, if you don't come for anything else, come to see Dr. Allen. All right. He is absolutely outstanding, and he makes, and I can't believe I'm saying this, he makes economics fun.
Yeah, he does. He does indeed.
He does. So, Jake, to wrap it up, we expect people to take away understanding of Epson as a company, better understand the multiple facets of Epson, including robotics, better understanding of robotics, of automation, of what it might take in their world to use a robot and implement it. And also, we would like for them to take away some of our giveaways. We're going to be having some surprises. We're going to be giving away some very nice things. So why not? I'm sure they will have fun as well together with us during that day in the event.
Absolutely. One thing for me, I'm looking forward to the event where you're talking about integration of vision and then flexible picking as well. Because I look at, when you look at automation and ecosystems, you have always these different manufacturers that are selling, product A, product B, product C, product D, and then it requires a machine builder to come in and integrate all those together. Correct. Now manufacturers are evolving. This kind of goes back to how we're addressing automation before, is it's no longer just these parts and parts and pieces that we're providing as manufacturers, but it's solutions. And we can go out there, we can create an ecosystem that we can autonomously pick from. We have vision systems that can find the parts and place them. That's one of the events that presentations that I'm most excited to learn about, is how is flexible automation adapting, right? We're talking about automation that's consistently changing, and these small to medium-sized manufacturers are not always running 20 million of the exact same parts. Sometimes they're running parts of SKUs, 5 to 1,000 different parts, and then they do a product changeover. So for me, I look at it as, how can mid-size and small manufacturers adapt their first automation system that is flexible enough to have justification for automating, because it's no longer just this one specifically programmed automation system to run this one part. It's now diverse manufacturing solutions that can run a variety of parts. And that's one of the ones, I think it's at 11 o'clock Pacific time. So that's one that I'm excited to learn more about and talk about that presentation. But with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Once again, guys, I'll put it in the chat below. Go ahead, head over to automateboldly.vfairs.com and register for the event, May 25th, next Tuesday. There's going to be some phenomenal speakers there. You're going to see a lot of the faces here that I have on guest today, giving presentations as well. And, come with your questions. And, have your colleagues who are interested in automation and robotics or want to learn more about robots in general. You're going to walk away with something from this event. So, Juan, last thing, I'll send over to you. Anything else you want to add?
No, please join us. We are eager to get to know you a little better, hopefully to interact. That's the main thing. So please look for us, look for our names, click, stop, say hi, and we'll be, looking forward to talking with each one of you on our event next week.
Absolutely. Rick?
Hey, I just want to thank everybody that came on today. Jake, this was super fun. Thanks for inviting us and letting us be on your show. We really appreciate that, and hope to see everybody there. And just like Juan Carlos said, reach out and say hi. If nothing else, just reach out, say hi. I'm Joe. Nice to meet you. If nothing else, okay. Absolutely. So looking forward to seeing everybody.
Scott, wrap us up.
Come for Dr. Allen, and as Rick said, fun economics. Come for education. Come for engagement. Come for insight and guidance in your automation journey. Really appreciate this, Jake. Love what you're doing with the manufacturer millennial, and look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Absolutely. So Juan Carlos, Rick, and Scott Marsic, you can find these guys on LinkedIn. So go ahead and look them up, connect with them, and if you have questions, follow them up, send them a message. That's the whole idea for LinkedIn. It's this idea for a job site, but it's about connections and industry connections and learning from each other as well. So make sure you go ahead and connect with these gentlemen as well, and have a great conversation with them. But until then, We'll see you guys next week, May 25th, for the main Automate Boldly event. And everyone have a great week. See ya.